it seems like there's some sort of inverse square with relationship to how early things are in terms of the brutality of rituals. When you read about the things that early cultures did to express certain things, whether it's to express rebirth and to express those simple ideas, those simple themes, in order to rejuvenate crops or whatever it is.
I was wondering if it was
brutal. What do you make?
I was
of
wondering I was thinking about that specifically actually, and I was wondering if it was kind of macrocosm versus microcosm. Maybe the closer it is to the source, the more specific the
because
power
now
is
it's
emphasized.
We don't.
Well, I'm saying,
there's nothing like that. It's very watered down.
Yeah,
now.
but we're probably still carrying out the same actions. Like, say, if there was a political revolt, imagine in this country, what if things went so bad that like there was an uprising and people were killed or sacrificed? That's almost like a mass way of doing what was previously done amongst,
right,
200
so it's
people.
distributed amongst billions of people. Somehow it's still being carried out with the same intensity, sort of like
right.
the
It's
conservation.
hard to say which ones are which. Like,
Yeah.
who is the sacrificial virgin? Is it the poor? Is it the rich person that ends up getting killed by a mob? I'm not sure, but I wonder. I think that's probably why things are less violent. I mean, is it the poor person that goes to war for stupid reasons? I don't know.
Well, that's a very very interesting way of putting it. Sort of like it's almost like conservation of energy, where it's the same energy that it has to be in the system, but if it's widely distributed, then it maybe looks different, but the same basic forces are at play, and it's still happening.
So like in a tribe of 200 people, or maybe I guess 1,000,
you got to kill the kids.
There's got to be one of these kids is gonna die.
Hang them from a tree. Yeah.
Well, right, and then we chop their heads off and wear their skin around. And I'm not saying that I would do that, but that's an actual example.
That is an example. In case someone thinks that Gabe's being weird with his examples, that is, if you haven't, so just so people know what we're talking about, it's a book by Joseph Campbell. It's the first volume in a series of books. It's called Masks of God, Volume 1, and that's what we're talking about. Anthropology and mythology through cultures, and some of the rituals, especially bizarrely in the plant-based cultures, are extremely brutal. The plant-based cultures have the most extreme versions because of their concept of renewal, the need to bring back crops every year. Then it's a mother-based culture, and so there's
the hunting tribes seem to be more self-inflicted or personal, whereas instead of the whole tribe taking it out on one individual, kind of the rise of the shaman is kind of with the plant-based cultures somewhat. Although there are shamans and hunting peoples as well, but it's almost like the shaman is he's like a scapegoat of the subconscious of the total population or something.
Right.
Which is another thing I was thinking.
Amazing, yeah.
Now we are all shamans.
In what sense?
We're all the shaman now.
So yeah, just
we take out the sacrifice on ourselves with our actions of whatever we do. We are our own dreamer. We don't look to others to dream. There's no longer a god or a structure or anything. We're like the tribe and the shaman, like all in one. And like our sacrifices, maybe we carry them out on ourselves through self-destructive actions, or we inflict pain on ourselves. We might do it to others too, but I don't know. I feel like the shaman character that was an in-between has disappeared. There's no more middleman, and now it's just everyone is partial tribal member and shaman at once or something.
Well, in the sort of crucifixion sense. I mean, the reason that the symbol of Christ is so powerful is that there is an unloading of something onto a single thing that then allows it to release, and that goes back to what I was saying about Jung as well. That the energy must flow in one way or another, whether it's a cultural energy. And the shaman is the guy on the outside of town who's very weird, and we scapegoat him, but he comes in and tells us what the weather's going to be next week.
He has many functions, which is interesting about the book. Sometimes he's a great guy that they get information from. Other times he's the cause of disease and plague, and you must track him down and kill him. And
there's a Christ analogy there too, though. and the way you're saying it.
Right. Well, unless you're like Christ is the final shaman, and then we're like in a post-shaman situation of just dealing with the consequences.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's so many
what
possibilities for what the meanings are, but it's endlessly fascinating to think about them.
It is interesting to speculate on the idea that somehow, because there isn't that thing to, scapegoat is a good word to use, then somehow it circles back and imprints itself on the psyche, and then we become methadone addicts and things like that.
Right, because we take the drugs now. We're the ones tripping out and having experiences, maybe just through mass media, just in a slow, dull gaze, passively or actively through like alcohol or, there's a lot of different ways people experience life, but they don't have that. He's like a buffer, the shaman, right?
Yeah.
And before that, I guess people. That's interesting, though. So the pre-shaman, pre-plant-based cultures being more hunter-gatherer, they might have been a little bit more similar to us. But if they didn't have their vices or their own, they had their structures and their things that they would do. But there's a lot of self-harm, right, for sacrifice.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they say like all the Native Americans of a certain tribe would have completely disfigured left hands,
right?
Because they would have to be making these sacrifices all the time. They didn't have the shaman figure in between them and God. It would be them making the sacrifices for benevolence from the father or mother. Or I'm just now getting into the Native American stuff. I like their theirs are weirder, but I like their mythologies.
Yeah. It's. I think everyone should read that book. It's unlocks a lot of interesting ideas that haven't been around.
Yeah.
One thing that comes up, I think, is the necessity of trial as a means of causing someone to feel their essential value in society. So, with the Australian bull roarer ritual, where they are without food and water and drink the blood of the elder men of the tribe and are separated from their mothers, and they can't just do this symbolically. They have to go through this traumatizing, horrible experience where they're cut and they're bled and they're drinking blood and they're famished in order to learn something experientially, and the experience is what connects them and links them to their culture in a meaningful way. Otherwise, they just float around and say, I don't know, I guess I'm patriotic, or I guess I care about my country or my people. No, they do it because they feel it, because that culture,
it's true. I've seen that it's true. I've gone through its truth.
Right. I've gone through its truth, and it's literally inside my body, in a sense. And it's a constant reminder on me, a cut on me.
And they see the results, because they're probably, I mean, I don't remember the exact specifics of the implications of it, but I know, like, I mean, that leads up to a circumcision ritual, basically, right?
Yeah, and, but they there's a subincision.
Right, but a lot of similar, but there's similar like tribal rituals that are usually about circumcision, which is to prepare them for being able to like take wives and make children. So I'm assuming a lot of the belief in the experience they had is subsequently proven by being with a woman and having a child. It's like everything about what you know to be true, it came from that ritual. I went through it. I know the pain of it. I experienced it, and obviously it's led to exactly what they said it would, and on continues the cycle.
So I will carry it forward.
Right.
I will be the one to carry it forward, because
I guess eventually you learn you don't have to chop up your dick to make a kid, but
when you do that, well, when you just
doesn't mean it doesn't have value in the culture,
right? And it's not that specific thing that's the thing that has value. It's the fact that there is there's a trial that you're forced to go through that creates a physical analogy, or a physical analogy to what you're actually doing, which is becoming an adult. You're leaving the protection of your mother and going to a new phase of life, which is the one who's going to add value to the tribe instead of being a helpless child. And if someone just tells you you're a man now, then you won't really get it. But if you go through the thing that tells you, you have to physically experience this excruciating thing, and it can take on whatever form. I don't think it has to specifically, well, I know it doesn't have to specifically be that, but it kind of reminds me of, there are modern analogies to that. There are Things like mandatory service. You have mandatory military service at a certain age in some countries where you have to go through specific military training either for a number of months, a number of weeks in some places. Every university.
There's more superficial ones like, say, bar mitzvahs or graduations or something
those
like
are
that.
more superficial. But I think those really have an impact. I mean, I think for example, in China, one of the reasons that people are very patriotic and love their country and feel a sense of unity is because when every person goes to university, they do 2 weeks of military training. They do drills every day. That's all they do for the first two weeks of university.
And they also
with
don't
uniforms.
have a choice, right?
Right,
That
with
helps,
uniforms on. They have uniforms. Even the kid who was before he was a goth kid in high school and had earrings and stuff. You will put on the military uniform. Everybody will. And
the interesting thing too about all these rituals is eventually they do end up like breaking down and societies break apart. There's questioners to the norm.
Right.
I like that one about the guy that I think it was the king or leader of the group was normally supposed to eventually be killed, but this guy got a dream that it wasn't supposed to be that way, and actually all the priests are supposed to be killed.
Right.
It's a great new idea I got.